Just to get started, could you give us an idea of the legal battle that Dominic and Jeremiah are going to be facing in the next few months?
Well, both of them are subject to criminal charges. They both have a court date coming up in Didsbury towards the end of October. With respect to Jeremiah, his charges are refusal and resisting or obstructing a police officer. With respect to Dominic, he has 2 charges of obstructing a police officer and causing a disturbance. The concern that we have with respect to this, of course, is the fact that if they are found guilty, they will have a criminal record. They will be subject to some sort of punitive aspect in the sense of fines or probation and so forth. And they're both very, very young. And in my opinion, from what I've seen of the video and upon speaking with my client, the concern is that this whole incident could have been handled so much differently. And we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have 2 young boys, and I say young or young adults, that are actually subject now to the criminal justice system when they've never, ever had an interaction.
What went wrong that day, in your opinion? What did the sheriffs do wrong when they, obviously punching them is the wrong thing to do, but how did it escalate so quickly?
We don't have disclosure yet. Disclosure is the evidence against Jeremiah that we'll expect to get probably within a couple of weeks. So I can't comment fully on that, but from what I've seen from the video and from my client's perspective, Jeremiah's perspective, one of the concerns that we have is you see these sheriffs chasing down this tractor in the video. Someone gets into the other side of the tractor. There's 4 or 5 sheriffs there, and you see some movement in the tractor. From what I understand, that's when Jeremiah is being punched and hit and pulled from both sides. Then he's yanked down out of the tractor. And the concern that we have clearly, in every citizen of Canada, and especially in Alberta as farmers, what is happening where somebody is actually being pulled out and punched? So what people need to really think about is the fact that he's in a tractor, he's going to go hay, that's what they're doing. They're under a lot of time pressure to get this done. He's not doing anything nefarious. And what ends up happening is it just accelerates to this. Where's the conversation? Where's the explaining? These people are law-abiding. There's no need to think that this individual is evading the police or trying to avoid. Where is the conversation that needed to happen before it resorts to physical violence?
So you've actually worked on a pretty high-profile case just recently, and that concluded successfully with Edward Maurice down in Okotoks.
Yes.
What sort of parallels can you draw between these 2 cases?
With respect to both of these cases, my concern is with respect to how the police conduct themselves initially. That's where this all starts. What steps are the police taking initially when they're investigating? Why jump straight to charges? Why not have a discussion, have an interaction with the individual, rather than jumping to charges or jumping to physically grabbing somebody and punching them and throwing them out of a vehicle? In both cases, had everyone just slowed down, had a discussion, and maybe that's where some training comes in with respect to this, these both instances, then in either case, we may not have been here today. We might not be clogging up the court system with these types of cases.
So I want to talk about the tractor that was actually seized. A day or 2 later, it was returned. They weren't sure, the family wasn't sure who paid the tow charge or who is going to be paying the cost of repairing the transmission. Do you know who sort of takes the blame on that and who's going to be paying those bills?
I think it's going to be a civil matter. That certainly we're going to try to address it on the criminal side within a charter notice, whereby we already foresee, regardless of the disclosure, that Jeremiah's rights have been violated. We're going to try to address it, but the criminal forum is not the proper forum for that. So with respect to a civil lawyer. I've been speaking to a civil lawyer regarding that, and hopefully the insurance companies are going to step up because they are insured, and that should be battled among the insurance. But what's urgent right now is they ought to have their tractor put in the exact same position that it was, because now they have a loaner. And the problem with that is it's a smaller tractor, it's not as efficient. This is a $300,000 piece of machinery that some tow truck driver was directed to just throw on some sort of a ramp and take it away. There's no thought process there. Again, there's no accountability. Can somebody stop and think for a moment, how are we going to do as little damage as possible so that we're not here? And it's the taxpayer that's going to pay for both of these court cases.
Would you say that overall that seizure of the tractor was unlawful in your opinion?
I think we're going to have to look at the disclosure with respect to that. Police are permitted to seize a vehicle capable of being put into motion under these types of charges. But at the same time, that's not really where the live issue is. The issue is if they're taking responsibility for that piece of machinery, then take responsibility and have someone, if you're going to tow it, have someone who actually understands the machinery tow it properly.
Because there was actually a sticker on it that said don't tow it.
Don't tow.
It actually wrecks the transmission. So one of my final questions, unless you had other stuff to add here, is are you going to be, over the course of this criminal trial and any civil litigation that happens afterwards, are you going to be pursuing on behalf of your clients some sort of professional complaint against the sheriffs who actually ended up arresting them? How is there the accountability that you were talking about? I mean, even if Jeremiah is found not guilty, where's the accountability with the officers?
That's looking further down the road. We do have some time to file a complaint regarding that once we get the disclosure, and hopefully we have the sheriffs having some sort of body camera or having a camera on the car so we can also get another angle as to what occurred, because my understanding is Jeremiah sat in the back of a police car that was very hot with his hands behind his backs, and we have marks to show on the handcuffs on his wrists. So we want an opportunity to review that disclosure. That ought to be part of disclosure, and then we can make a proper assessment as to what steps to make in that realm, whether or not we're going to proceed with a complaint against the police or the sheriffs in this case.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. You've been on the forefront of so many interesting cases here in Alberta, and we'll be sure to follow along as this case proceeds. If the viewers at home want to help Jeremiah out, they can go to helpjeremiah.com, and that will forward you to the GoFundMe page that his sisters actually set up to help with all of the legal fees. You just heard the conversation we had. It is going to be a long trial, both civil and criminal. If you can help Jeremiah out, that would go a long ways. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.